My talk will be about ReactJS worst practices. And I will start with a little story about how I became a front-end developer and a software engineer. And I have created my first web page about 7 years ago, back in 2009. It looked something like this, so just a heading and a small paragraph. Then I just started to put a small CSS in this, and it started looking like this. Then I started to learn JavaScript and adding interactions to different pages. Of course, when you start learning JavaScript, the first thing you do is you do the alert box. And I remember using that default text editor that came with Windows XP called Notepad. It had no syntax highlight, just different files, and I was really excited about the things I can do just with several lines of code. So you can paste several lines of code into the text editor, save the file, open in the browser, and the web page appears. It felt like magic. I really felt just super powered with all this knowledge about how the web page can be created. And after default Notepad application, I started to use Notepad++, and it got syntax highlight. It felt amazing too. I remember at that time it was really popular to add snowflakes to your websites. So I had snowflakes on my website too. And I really felt super powered about this because I can make it snow in the summer. And I really miss that feeling because now front-end development is a little bit more complicated. At that time, I really haven't known nothing about build tools, preprocessors, and linting, about organizing your project. You just created HTML page, CSS file, and just go with it. And at the same time, most of the websites were built with tables. Do you remember that time where we used tables for the layout of our web pages? And I remember using different images to creating round border radius or images to create gradients. But for now, all of this is automated, and different tools like auto prefixing and PostCSS do a lot of stuff without even needed to code it. And from that time, 7 years passed, and now I work as a front-end developer and UI UX engineer at UScan. It's a Ukrainian / Russian social media monitoring company. And now I run, I believe it's the first one, React and Redux course in Ukraine. And you can find me on Twitter by that hardly spelled nickname. Today I want to speak about the things that I struggled with during my journey as a software engineer, and the things that were real barriers on my path. And the first thing I want to mention is actually the one that I struggle the most. And it is one of my biggest problems in the different fields of life, and it's perfectionism. So I consider myself a perfectionist. And when I write in the program, I want my code to be correct, get its job done, and at the same time be perfectly formatted, fast, and as for me, beautiful. But perfectionism can be a healthy trait, but when not taken to the extreme. If you look up to the dictionary, perfectionism is defined as a personal standard, attitude or philosophy that demands perfection and rejects anything else. That really sounds not that bad, right? But as for me, perfectionism is actually one of the biggest barriers to creativity, professional and personal growth. The main and really the worst thing about being a perfectionist and is a tendency to think in very strict terms. So you defined everything as black and white, all or nothing, success or failure, or you complete everything or just don't start at all. And in software engineering and in development, it can mean different things. For example, spending even more time on planning to code than actually coding. Or not starting to do a task until you will be 100% sure that that the path you choose is correct and all the tools you decided to choose to do the task are perfectly fine. Or even staring at, it's especially true for newcomers, staring at the blank file in the editor and rethinking over and over again and not started writing code before you are perfectly sure that the things that you are going to do is correct. As for me, it is firstly spending more time on refactoring, renaming, replacing and reorganizing files than actually on coding and implementing new features for the users. And I think that on this side, perfectionism is actually just destroying the productivity and the project life cycle. Sometimes it looks like this. So you are just writing your front end or your application every 6 weeks or every 2 months because you find a new shiny tool to use and you think that it will just change everything, that you just apply a new approach that you discovered or someone told you and it really will do all the work for you. But in all of these situations, actually what you end up with is not the perfect code, but a kind of temporary solution that you are willing to fix in the nearest future. So you cannot find the perfect solution, so you just end up doing something fast, just gluing the tape and doing a quick solution that maybe you are placing some to-do comment and you are willing to fix in the nearest future sometimes, somewhere. But what I really try to repeat to myself to really overcome the perfectionism is done is better than perfect. That is actually a delivered product that users can use is actually better than the products in the future that can be full feature, bug-free, and just the best ever in the world. But something existing that users can use actually is better than something in the future. There is another popular agile saying that I think you heard of, is make it work, make it right, and then make it fast. So the first, you need to make it just work, just have a solution that just works and just solves the problem. Then you need to rethink a little bit and change your solution to work more right, to make your code better to read or better to understand, and then just after it, make it fast. But it is really hard to not be on the step, make it right, too long. And I think that we should always remember why we are building software. Why are we building the applications? Actually, we are building software solutions to solve some problems. for the users. And we are actually not building application just to build an application unless it's your portfolio project. But in real life, projects often get to decide to deliver a fully featured, bug-free, everything tested application somewhere in the future, or deliver a product that maybe wouldn't be perfect, but it will be. It will just be and solve, it will be good enough for your users to satisfy their needs. There is even a principle about this that is called good enough software. So that it is the software that satisfy your users' needs, needs for future development and supporting the software, and is just good enough. It is not perfect, and actually there is no perfect code, especially if you are not writing the code alone, and if you are working in the team. You cannot create perfect code together. You need just faith that your solution can be good enough or can be just not be. The next thing that, 1 minute. The next thing that I really find a barrier in developing applications now is technology chasing. It is really exciting now to be a part of front-end development. So many amazing things happen in our field. We have new libraries appearing every week, innovative technologies and new methodologies. And all of these are really pushing our field forward, and we can create more and more complex applications with JavaScript. And all of these tools that we can use are really making JavaScript more and more sophisticated compared as it was 3 to 5 years before. But it can be really overwhelming, especially for newcomers, that it really becomes hard to keep up with everything that happens new in the community. And there are so many tools that you can use. And when a new shiny thing appeared, everything says that you should use it in your project. So when Redux came out, that everyone who used just an old plain Flux library were ashamed and said, you should be using Redux now. Redux is better, but that could be really true, but we should always compare that effort that we will put in implementing or adding new technology to our stack, or replacing or rewriting something, with the output of this technology. And there is this tweet of Pete Hunt that too many newbies are getting overwhelmed by React's learning curve. And I think that it is just because of this wide variety of different technologies to use and to put in your projects that it really becomes hard to decide what to choose, and when a new thing appears, you just think that you need to rewrite everything. But what I found that you should use new technology if it actually solves some problem. So, for example, if you used Grunt as your build tool, and it started to be really hard to add new features, or the builds are slow, then you can think about using Webpack, for example, instead of Grunt. But not just because someone said that you should use Webpack or something else. And I think that we don't need to use technologies because it's trendy. So React is now really mainstream, and everyone wants to build everything with React. I think that I could be blamed to say this on ReactJS conference, but React is not a solution to everything. So some projects are better to build with Ember or Angular, and it really depends on what you know and how much time you will spend on learning new technology to implement it in your project. And actually, users don't care what your code looks like. And unless the output for the user and the result of your building your application is the same, it's really don't matter what you are using. And the next thing that is a bit dealt with the previous one is confusing opinions with facts. And actually, I think that we should not base our technical decisions on just one blog post or a tweet or something like that. And we should not just trust and think that other person knows more about React. Maybe he or she knows about React more, but actually this person knows less than you about your project, about your team, about your environment, about your knowledge, and about the things that really are around you. So my point is don't take contrast, and instead measure and compare different approaches and choose one that really suits you and your project the most. And there is another one saying by Mark Zuckerberg, code wins arguments. So I actually a lot of times find myself and my team in the situation when we were just during hours arguing what technology to choose or what approach to choose. But we could spend this time on just implementing this and comparing. And this could really help, and we could really use not technology on basing on who of us has the more authority, or I actually don't say in English, I don't know. So code wins arguments. Let's go to the next one. It's temporary solutions. It's about that small thing that you want to do in the future, or want to implement right in the future, and now doing just a quick tape fix for your project. And I really like an analogy that is used in pragmatic programmer book about broken windows. So when our software development is agnostic to all the physical laws, but entropy is the physical law that differs amount of disorder in the system, really hits the software the most. Andrew Hunt, the author of the book Pragmatic Programmer, used analogy with research that was done by crime and urban decay of United States about buildings. So there were, in the inner city, there were a lot of buildings, and there were some shiny and clean one, and there was just some of them were just ruined. And they wanted to know what just caused this what just caused the building becomes so abandoned. And they found that it was just one broken window. So one broken window left unrepaired for some period of time, gradually but firmly established in the residents of the building that feeling, that sense of abandonment. And they just thought that powers or government just don't care about the building and started to leave the rubbish all over the building. Graffiti appeared, another window got broken, and then a really serious structural damage begins, and the building starts to get fully destroyed. This broken window theory has inspired the powers and police departments in New York and other big cities in the USA to pay attention to small things in order to keep out the big stuff. Actually, I found this similar to cleaning your apartment. So you clean your apartment, everything is shiny and clean, and then you just left one dirty plate on the desk, and everything becomes a complete mess. So it works for the programming too. In our programs, some poor piece of code or a bad architectural decision just make us feel that everything is broken, and we may tend to think that we can break another one or put this bad piece of code here or something like that. And I think that we need to fix these broken windows as soon that they are discovered. And if you find no time to fix a broken window or a bad design decision properly, then you can just leave a to-do or fix me comment, create a task in your bug tracker. You just need to show that you are in control with the situation. I think that with these small things that they can really influence on their whole project, on the whole project's perspective. The next thing I want to talk about is the phrase, "it's impossible." I really heard a lot of this phrase from our programmers, and I actually said it myself. I think that there are no or very few things really impossible in the software. We should really stop saying no to things because we're too lazy to implement them, or it may be hard or some complex animation that your UI designer wants to implement to make your user satisfied. We could just make these things happen and explain to the manager or to the user how may be complex or how much time it will consume to implement this decision. One of my favorite ones, the dog ate my source code. I really think that we as developers, we don't need to provide excuses, and instead we need to provide different options. If something doesn't work as it was expected or some bug appears, you don't need to blame someone or the backend guys or technology you choose, programming language, or the build tool, or CI, or something like that in the problem, or and just take responsibility for your bugs and for poor decisions that you've made. And it's actually okay if you mistake, and it's okay if your code has bugs. And firstly, when I started to work in an outsourcing company where we have a QA engineer who found bugs for us, I was thinking that every bug is a personal offense, as I'm a bad developer, just like a kitten you're a bad kitten. And I was thinking that I am a bad developer because my code has bugs, but it's okay that when you make poor decisions or when something doesn't work as it was expected, but you need just provide different options on how to fix it or how to implement it differently. The next thing that I really tended to create in my applications are God objects. These are the objects that really do everything and handle different aspects from your application, from the rendering, calling the local storage, API, some asynchronous requests, and it really starts like a small utils file here in your source code, and you just simply just started like text utils, and you put everything, different methods to work with your text in that file, but then you need to add another method, and you just think where to put that. I'd like to put it in utils. You just rename it on utils.js, and then it's just a huge file on several thousands of lines with different utils all over your project. And it is, I think, we should be not afraid of creating a lot of files. So just create a lot of files for different type of utilities for a project. Another one is a little bit similar to the previous, is fat components. It is really the hardest thing that when you are building a large application is managing complexity. You get complexity when a lot of parts of your applications interact with each other, resulting in large amount of different states that your application can be in. And this makes it really hard to reason about your program. And React, as a framework, really helps us to reduce this complexity by splitting our application on small components that are responsible for the small, that are small and can be reasoned about individually. But unless we are careful, we can actually end up with a lot of complexity within our components. I think that if component takes more than 10 or 20 properties, it is really pain to work with. Because each additional property increases the amount of different states your component can be in, and amount of combinations in factorial way, let's say that. And it really increases the API servers and causing a combination explosion within your component. And I think that we should prefer composability over monolithic design. And when I just started to write applications in React 2 or 3 years ago, I really don't use composability that much. And for example, if I needed a button with icon, I just added a prop type, icon type to my button. And then this button component ends up with 20 or 30 different prop types and was really hard to manage and to work with. But instead of that, we can use composability to just place icon in our component. And I really use composability now a lot in my applications. And I create components to manage my different media queries, to manage the breakpoints, to create in layouts, toolbars, transitions, translations, icons, and so on. So everything could be a component. You can place metadata to your component. You can place everything to your component. And this composability of React is really a powerful tool that I think that I used not in its full power when I first started to use React. And I was afraid to create many components because I thought that it just increased complexity of my project, and I think that we shouldn't be afraid to create many components, but we should not write generic code because when you are thinking about reusable code, which is just a modern word that everyone wants to write reusable code and reuse their components from one application, from one project to another, we should not take it to the extreme and expect everything, every property or everything in one component and to create this huge monolithic piece of code. And instead, we should use a KISS principle. So keep it simple, stupid, and keep the number of properties of your component to a minimum, and represent actual different ways of a component can look and behave using different properties or composability, instead of just placing everything in one component and predicting all the ways and all the states it can be in. Another thing is duplication. I think everyone knows that we shouldn't duplicate our code, and it is a bad practice because it makes really harder to maintain our code. And if some of requirements change, you need to find all the place that this piece of code was used in and make changes there. So there is another principle of this, is dry principle, so don't repeat yourself. And there actually is the rule of 3. It is a code refactoring rule that was introduced by Martin Fowler. It is just rule of thumb in software design. So when you just use something the second time, it's okay, but when it's the third time, you need to extract it to the new function, method, or procedure, or something like that. Another thing that I discovered from when I learned React and from the people who were around me learning React, that they are actually afraid to ask, afraid to appear weak or don't know something. And I really like this hashtag on Twitter, Junior Dev for Life. It is used by Dan Abramov and Ryan Florence to show that it's okay that when you don't know something. And you should not be afraid to ask. And you should not be to admit that you don't know something. And instead, you should be open to different possibilities and just freely show different developers and ask questions to them, because your ego is not worth that. It's not worth the time that you will spend on finding the solution yourself. And it's okay to ask other developers or create Stack Overflow question, issue on GitHub or something like that for the things that you don't know. And the last, I guess, thing is dogmatism. It is when you're just not open to new approaches, and if you know React, you just think that you should use React for everything, and say everyone that who is using Angular that he should be using React by now. I think that we should be open to new approaches, to new programming languages and solutions, despite of the fact that we know something already. And we should stop shaming others because of the tech they use, because there are different projects, there are legacy code, there are big projects and big teams there. You cannot just replace some technologies that it appeared to be used several years ago with the new one. No, it's not how things happened. And actually, that's it for my talk. If you have something to add about it, tweet to me. That's my Twitter nickname. And thank you a lot for your attention.